Logan sat at his desk, thumbing through a stack of invoices while his Bible lay open beside him. The day had been busy, but something kept nudging him to check on Victoria. He picked up his phone and dialed. "Hello," Victoria answered. "Hey, Victoria. Hope I'm not catching you at a bad time." "No, you're fine." Logan smiled and leaned back in his chair. "I was just thinking about you and I wanted to see how you're doing." Victoria looked out the window. "I've been better, but I'm getting through it. That's all any of us can do some days." She laughed softly. "You always seem to know the right thing to say." "Nah," Logan chuckled. "I've just learned that life has a way of humbling everybody eventually." His eyes drifted to the open Bible on this desk. "You know, one thing I've learned is that trouble doesn't last forever. It feels permanent when you're in it, but seasons change." Victoria was quiet for a moment. I needed to hear that. "Then maybe that's why I called." The conversation continued effortlessly. After that, moving from serious things to laughter, work stories, and little pieces of life neither of them usually shared with anyone else. When the call finally ended, Victoria found herself smiling without realizing it. Not because all of her problems had disappeared, but because someone had taken the time to remind her that she didn't have to face them alone. Saturday morning sunlight spilled through the curtains as Victoria slowly opened her eyes. For once, there was no alarm clock rushing her out of bed, no urgent phone calls, no weight pressing down on her shoulders. She sat up, stretched her arms towards the ceiling, and took a long, peaceful breath. The satin nightgown brushed softly against her skin as she stepped onto the floor, standing beside the bed. She smiled as the warmth of the sun filled the room, and she stretched again. Life had changed, not overnight, not without tears, not without disappointment, but it had changed. Victoria walked to the window and looked outside. The raise at work was more than just extra money. It was proof that all the years she had spent showing up, working hard, and refusing to quit had finally been recognized. A thought crossed her mind, and this time she didn't push it away. Victoria was tired of walking, tired of waiting at bus stops, tired of depending on everyone else for a ride. Today wasn't about being practical. Today was about celebrating. Victoria smiled to herself. She wasn't going to buy just any car. She was going to get the car she had dreamed about. The car she would slow down and admire whenever she saw one pass by. The car she had imagined herself driving long before she believed it could actually happen. She looked around her room and laughed softly. "Hmm, Lord, after everything we've been through, I think it's time." With excitement beginning to build, Victoria headed toward the bathroom to get ready. This Saturday wasn't going to be spent wishing, it was going to be spent choosing. The dealership was larger than Victoria expected. Rows of shiny vehicles sat beneath bright showroom lights, each one polished to perfection. Salespeople moved from customer to customer, but Victoria wasn't there to browse. She was there with a purpose. She knew exactly what she wanted. The only thing she hadn't decided was the color. A salesman approached her with a friendly smile. "Good morning. Looking for anything particular today? Victoria smiled back. Yes, actually, I know exactly what I want. Well, that makes my job easier. What are we looking for? Victoria told him. His eyebrows lifted slightly. Excellent choice. He led her across the showroom floor and towards several models. The first one was beautiful. Victoria walked around it slowly, running her fingers along the side. She said. You don't sound convinced. I'm not. The salesman laughed. What's wrong with it? Nothing. It's beautiful. It just doesn't feel like mine. He nodded. Fair enough. They moved on to the second one. This one had all the features she wanted. The interior was gorgeous. The technology was impressive. The price was within her budget. But after sitting behind the wheel for a moment, Victoria shook her head. No. The salesman chuckled. You know, most people can't make a decision. You're eliminating them faster than I can introduce them. Victoria laughed. When you've waited for this long, for something you don't want to settle. Fair point. A few minutes later, they approached another vehicle. Victoria stopped walking. Something about it caught her attention immediately. The color reflected beautifully beneath the showroom lights. The lines were elegant, sophisticated, confident. She opened the door and slid into the driver's seat. The smell of new leather filled the air. Her hands settled naturally on the steering wheel. She looked around the cabin. Then she smiled. A real smile. The kind that reaches your eyes. The salesman noticed it immediately. Uh-oh. Victoria laughed. What? I've been doing this kind of work long enough to know that look. What look? The look that says you've already named the car and you're about to make me start the paperwork. Victoria leaned back in the seat and looked around once more. For years, she had watched other people drive the things they dreamed about. For years, she told herself, maybe one day. Today wasn't one day. Today was that day. She looked at the salesman and smiled. I think this is the one. And just like that, Victoria stopped dreaming about it and started signing for it. The paperwork moved much faster than Victoria expected. Because of the amount she had put down, there were no long negotiations, no endless waiting, and no surprises. An hour and a half later, the paperwork was signed, the tag was purchased, the keys were officially hers. Victoria walked back towards the dark blue Genesis and smiled. There it was, the vehicle she had admired for years. The rich blue exterior shimmered in the sunlight, and the white leather interior looked even more beautiful than she had imagined. She opened the driver's door and slid behind the wheel. For a moment, she just sat there. Not because she was overwhelmed, but because she was eternally grateful. Her hands rested on the steering wheel as she looked around the cabin. The soft leather, the elegant dashboard, the quiet luxury of it all. Victoria just couldn't stop smiling. She remembered all the days she walked, all the rides she had accepted from friends, all the moments she wondered when things would finally begin to change. And now, here she was, driving the very thing she had once only dreamed about. As she pulled out of the dealership parking lot, a scripture came to mind. He will give you the desires of your heart. Victoria shook her head and laughed softly. Lord, you really did. The joy bubbling inside of her was hard to contain. She wanted to call somebody. She wanted to text somebody. She wanted someone to come outside and see what God had done. At a red light, she glanced over at the beautiful white interior once again and smiled. Look at you, God. The car wasn't what made her happy. It was what the car represented. Proof that prayers had been heard. Proof that hard work had not gone unnoticed. Proof that delay doesn't mean denial. As the Genesis glided smoothly down the road, Victoria turned up the music and enjoyed every second of the ride home, thanking God for his goodness all the way there. Victoria was only a few minutes from home when she pulled up to a red light. Still smiling, she glanced around the interior of her new Genesis. The white leather seats, the smell of a brand new vehicle, the smooth ride, it all felt surreal. As she sat there, she happened to look to her left, and there, in a white Mercedes Benz, was Colleen. Colleen's eyes widened. She rolled down her window. Hold on, is that you, Victoria? Victoria laughed and rolled hers down. Yes, it's me. Colleen looked at the Genesis up and down. Now, wait a minute. Look at you. That thing is beautiful. Victoria just could not stop smiling. Brand new. Just drove it off the lot. No way. Way. Colleen shook her head and laughed. I leave you alone for 5 minutes and you go buy a luxury vehicle. Victoria grinned. I've wanted one for a long time. Colleen looked over at the white interior. Oh, that's nice. That's really nice. Victoria gently ran her hand across the steering wheel. I'm just thanking God for his tender mercies, she said. Colleen nodded. You know what? I'm happy for you. You've worked hard for this. Victoria's smile softened. Thank you. There were days I wondered if things would ever change. Well, Colleen said, pointing toward the Genesis, I'd say things are changing. Both women laughed. Just then, the traffic light turned green. Colleen smiled and pointed ahead. Go enjoy your new car, girl. Victoria laughed. Oh, don't worry. I plan to. The two waved as the light changed, and Victoria drove away, smiling grateful not only for the car, but for the journey that had brought her there.